Okay, everyone. So we're looking at, so we've looked at ionic bonding, we've looked at covalent bonding, but we're going to look at something new today that's, it's not really an ionic bond and it's not a covalent bond. It's a new type of bond that you have not yet looked at, and it's called a polar covalent bond. Okay, so a polar covalent bond is not really where you have the electrons fully being added or lost. So there's no gaining and losing of electrons. It's not really ionic, and it's not really an equal sharing of electrons in a chemical bond. So it's actually referred to as an unequal sharing of electrons. So what I'm talking about here is normally, let's say we have hydrogen with one electron and another hydrogen with an electron. These two electrons that are being shared here in this single covalent bond is normally known as an equal sharing. So meaning the electrons can spend equal amounts of time between the two hydrogen atoms, right? They're basically moving between the two atoms themselves. So a polar covalent bond, so it's still a covalent bond. So meaning you have sharing of electrons that are happening. However, the most important thing to make note of is that a polar covalent bond means that it is now an unequal sharing of electrons. So what that means is these electrons are not necessarily spending the same amount of time between the two atoms. You'll have one atom having more electron attraction than the other. So an unequal sharing of electrons results in a polar covalent bond. So here are the three bonds here just to kind of give you an idea. So ionic bond means an electron is lost from one and gained to the other, right? So they are completely stripped away the electron and gained the electron. A non-polar covalent bond, which is the one that you're used to seeing, means that you have electrons that are shared equally. So this kind of blobby thing is representing the electron movements. So notice if you were to like split this in half, obviously I didn't really do that properly, but both sides are equal. It's an even sharing of electrons. Whereas here, our new polar covalent bond, if you were to cut this in half, you'll notice that the blob on this right side is bigger than the blob on the left. So what that means is the electrons that are being shared here is spending more time with this element than it is with this element. So really what we're going to look at today is, well, how do you know that you have this type of bond and not this type of bond? And then we're going to look at, well, how do we know which side the electrons are going to want to be more than the other? Okay, so in order to figure out what the unequal sharing is caused by, the reason why this exists is because of electronegativity. So this should sound familiar because when we learned about the trends on the periodic table, this was one of the trends that we observed. So electronegativity is when you have two elements that are basically bonding together, what is the ability for that atom to attract electrons? Okay, so essentially the higher the electronegativity number, okay, so electronegativity, I'm using EN for short. I'll be using that the rest of this course, basically. So the higher the EN number, what that means is the higher the attraction for electrons. So if you have a very low EN number, that means it has a very low attraction for electrons. So obviously this will make a difference because if I have one atom that has a high attraction and one atom that has a lower attraction, right? So imagine I have something high bonded to something low. The electrons are going to be attracted to the element that is higher in attraction. So that's why you have that unequal sharing. If they're both the same, then that means they're going to be equally shared. But if one has a higher amount than the other, the electrons will basically be pulled to one side than the other. So let's talk about how are we going to predict the bond type that we're dealing with using electronegativity. So first of all, let's go through where we can get these electronegativity values. Okay, so most periodic tables that have additional information than just the regular standard one that maybe you might have seen in elementary school do have electronegativity numbers. So here I'm at the one that's at ptable.com, and if you click on an element, and you're on the properties tab, so there are different tabs here, but properties is where you want to be. The electronegativity number is right here. You can see this here. So actually, ooh, I didn't even know we can do that. So if you hit electronegativity, you actually will have a color coding system that comes up. So you have here like low attraction and then higher and higher attraction values. Very interesting. So, but anyways, we're going to need actually the number value. So when you look at any element, you have the number value right here. It's highlighted right now. So notice it's changing, right, depending on what element that we are looking at. So it's important that you know where the electronegativity number is, because we're going to need that when it comes time for us to determine the type of bonds we have. Okay, so again, ptable.com is a really nice one. I would recommend that you use this periodic table. I do have one that is scanned in for you on D2L. It didn't really scan in perfectly, so it is a little bit blurry. But really, any period, even if you were to just Google electronegativity on the periodic table, you will get these same values, okay? So we need electronegativity numbers. So let's go through and say, well, what can we do with these numbers? So once you have the electronegativity for the different elements, we can actually predict what type of bond will be made between two elements. So what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the difference in electronegativity values. So basically, we're going to take the two elements and we're going to subtract the numbers for electronegativity to calculate the difference between the two elements. Now, it's important to keep in mind when you're doing this subtraction, you always take the larger number and you subtract the smaller number. You never want to have a negative difference in electronegativity, okay? So you take the larger electronegativity, you subtract the smaller electronegativity. Okay, and we're going to do some examples. Okay, so what is the difference in electronegativity going to tell us? Okay, well, it's going to tell us what type of bond we have. So if we have a difference of value between 0 and 0.4, that means we have a covalent bond, or otherwise known as a equally shared pair of electrons, right? So a covalent bond is an equal sharing. If we have a range from 0.4 to 1.7, we're going to have a polar covalent bond, which is what we're learning about today, the unequal sharing of electrons. If you have a difference in electronegativity bigger than 1.7, that means that the attraction level is so different that one element is basically going to gain the electron from the other. Okay, so as mentioned, the smaller value is always subtracted from the larger En value. You should never have a negative difference in electronegativity. So here's an example. What type of bond will carbon and sulfur create? Okay, well, we need to look up these values. So let's look again on the periodic table where we're going to find those. So carbon is right here. So you'll notice that carbon, the electronegativity is 2.55, right? 2.55. Sulfur, which is here, is 2.58. So that's where I'm getting those numbers from. So here, we're going to write them down. So carbon's 2.55, sulfur's 2.58. So we have to subtract them. So we do 2.58 minus 2.55. So the difference in electronegativity between carbon and sulfur is 0.03. So what that means is it falls under this first range, which means that you have a non-polar covalent bond. So meaning we have, when carbon and sulfur bond together, these electrons that are being shared between them are being shared equally. Okay, you don't have one atom that is attracting them more than the other. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is use this as a practice. So I'd like you to look up the electronegativities for each element in the pair for each element in the pair that are given. So for A, it's potassium and fluorine. For B, it's carbon and oxygen. And for C, it's oxygen and oxygen. And I want you to do two things. Determine the electronegativity difference, and then tell me what type of bond it makes. Okay, so we can pause the video and give this a try. So for potassium and fluorine, so we have 3.98, which is our fluorine, minus 0.82. So again, we're getting those values from the periodic table. The difference there is 3.16. So 3.16 is definitely in this range. So it's anything more than 1.7 or 1.7 to 3.3 is going to be ionic. So the first one is ionic. For the second one, we have carbon, which is 2.55, and oxygen, which is 3.44. You always do the larger minus the smaller. So in this case, our difference in electronegativity is 0.89, which is polar covalent, or an unequal sharing of electrons. And then oxygen and oxygen, it's the same number minus itself. So the difference there is going to be 0. So it's a non-polar covalent bond. Also, when you say just covalent bond, that automatically means the same thing as saying a non-polar covalent bond. Okay, they both mean the same thing, that you're saying the electrons are being equally shared. Now, I made a little note here because when you start doing some example questions with electronegativity, you may have some elements that it doesn't really make sense, the type of bond that the calculation is telling you. So the element types always take priority, okay? So a metal plus a non-metal is always ionic. So sometimes when you're calculating the difference in electronegativity, it might give you something in the polar covalent range, but metal and non-metal bonded together is always ionic, okay? Same thing with when you have two non-metals, so a non-metal plus another non-metal, that is always going to be either covalent or polar covalent. You will never have a non-metal with another non-metal that's going to be ionic. Okay, it's always some type of covalent bond, either covalent or polar covalent. So the type of elements is always number one, the number one thing to look for. Okay, so what we're going to talk about now is, well, now that we have a polar covalent bond, how are we going to show it? So I'm going to pause the video and we'll take this to the next part.